Welcome to PCN Life, a closer look at the people in our communities and life here on the South Shore. Tonight we bring you a touching story of two friends who came together in an amazing way with a live organ donation.
Our arts and entertainment segment is back with a couple of songs from local artist Carlin Tripp.
PCN Life spends the day in Kingston. See where we went, what we saw, and who we met.
It's another great episode, and we begin tonight in Kingston.
This week, we start things off with our second installment of a series we're calling A Day in the Life.
Right. It's a chance for us to get out into our 4 towns that we cover here at PCN and spend the entire day there from morning until nighttime.
It's more than just spending the day there, though. It's a way to showcase many of the things you can do and places you can go if you happen to be passing through.
This week's journey takes us through Kingston. Growing up, Exit 9 was always the way we used to get into Kingston, but it turns out you've got a whole host of options, whether it's Route 3A North, 3A South, or Route 53. You can even take routes 80, 27, or 106. In fact, if this town were a fortress, it would need a National Guard unit to protect its borders. Settled in 1620 and eventually incorporated over 100 years later in 1726, this South Shore town with a population of over 13,000 borders on 5 other towns. Pembroke and Duxbury are to the north and northeast, Plimpton and Carver to the west and southwest, and Plymouth is just to the south. The town also has a coastline, which we'll check out in a little bit, but first, let's grab some breakfast. For the on-the-go sustenance, you can swing by the place named after the 2 streets that it lands on. Conveniently located across the street from Silver Lake Regional High School, Station 27 is the one-stop shop for that quick-fix breakfast.
Our hours are geared towards the high school and the middle school. Mornings usually look like kids stopping in for iced coffee, muffins, or a quick breakfast sandwich. We make fresh egg sandwiches on bagels, English muffins, bulky rolls, and we try to be, you know, as one stop as possible, so you can come in and grab what you need and get going.
The current owners have been here for just over a year, serving up breakfast off the grill. And while their boom time for the first meal of the day is definitely while school is in session, the ice cream sales from Joy's Dairy help them through these hot summer nights. But if you're going for that classic breakfast diner experience, you'll find it at the Blueberry Muffin in this shopping plaza. With their other store located in Plymouth, Chef Kevin Brown and the staff here have put the Kingston Blueberry Muffin at 164 Summer Street on the map for the past 3 years. Breakfast is served from 5:30 a.m. until 1 p.m., and on weekdays, lunch is served from 11:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. On average, the kitchen turns out somewhere between 200 and 300 plates a day. And it's not just blueberry muffins, although they do look pretty tasty. With breakfast out of the way, we can finally get around to enjoying the outdoors. And with this incredibly hot summer we've been having, what better way to enjoy it than by hitting the beach? You can find Gray's Beach just off of 3A. Just turn down Howlands Lane and bear right after you've crossed the railroad tracks. While the beach itself may not be enormous, this 6.5-acre property has stuff for everyone to stay active. Plenty of room in this field for frisbee and wiffle ball, a playground for the kids, a basketball court, a tennis court, even if you're just using it to play pickleball like these folks. And there's parking too, but you'll need a sticker, so if you don't have one, you can get one at Town Hall. But if lying around on the beach isn't your thing and you'd rather do something on the water, then take yourself slightly off the beaten path to the Jones River Landing on Landing Road. The landing is an ideal launch area and the river itself is fantastic for kayaking, canoeing, or boating.
I think it's one of the lost treasures of not only Massachusetts but New England, and that it's a great opportunity. We're 1.5 miles from the bay right here, with a nice little river. If you don't have any experience, it's a great spot to put in. We haven't figured out the rentals or anything like that yet, but we are a membership group, not very expensive, and we have kayaks and canoes to lend. And even if you're a sailor, we have a couple of sailboats that we want people to use. So we encourage membership, but we give people a free ride.
And while membership to the landing isn't strictly enforced to use the kayaks and canoes, the nominal annual fee seems worth it to have access to all of this beauty. But if you're trying to avoid all of the UV rays and still do something outdoors, follow Route 80 west to Elm Street, where you'll find Sampson Park and Fonts Memorial Forest. What started off as a 52-acre land grant from Walter Fonts in 1950 has since expanded to around 166 acres thanks to additional gifts and purchases. Maintained and operated by the town's Open Space Committee and Conservation Commission, you'll find a portion of the Bay Circuit Trail here, which runs for 0.7 of a mile. It's good for a short afternoon hike, but if you've never been here, it may feel a bit longer, so come prepared. One nice thing about being under the tree line is that for the most part it keeps you out of direct sunlight, but it doesn't keep you away from the heat, which is why it's imperative to always carry something to drink with you when you're out on the trails. And if there's a chance that you'll get lost, make sure you have a compass as well. Not to be lost in all of this is the scenery, which you can take in from these picnic tables. The park borders the Jones River and its reservoir. Across the street, you'll find the Elm Street Dam, which looks like it was ripped from the pages of history that we haven't lived in for hundreds of years. If you're a photographer looking to get into the postcard making business, here's a great place to start. But if all of this isn't enough, you can head back down Landing Road to Bay Farm. Now, a popular misconception is that this land is on the Duxbury side of town. Not true. Here's how you can tell the difference. If it's flat and green, it's the Duxbury side. If it looks like endless trees, it's the Kingston side. Bay Farm is considered the southern anchor of the Bay Circuit Trail and leads to the mouth of the Jones River at Kingston Bay. A majority of this land belongs to the town's Open Space Committee and Conservation Commission and is a great place to take your dog or just yourself for a walk to get away from it all. What's great about this spot right here is that if you're looking to get some exercise, from the start of the trail to this very point here, it's about a half mile. If you want to have a picnic, you can do it under the trees or right out here in the open. If you want to go for a swim, the ocean's right there. The view is spectacular, and the beauty is it's all free. Just make sure you clean up after yourself when you're done. All of this activity in the sun can make you not only tired, but tired and hungry, which can be a dangerous combination. Luckily, there's a cure for that as we head back to the center of town for dinner. On your way into town, you may have noticed the train tracks right in the center, and that's because the commuter rail has a depot right here in Kingston. In fact, it's pretty popular. Even though Plymouth is the end of the line for this commuter train, it doesn't always stop or start there, whereas aside from one time slot in the day, you can always catch it here or get off here in Kingston according to the schedule. That's something to think about for later. For now, let's head back to that restaurant that looks like an old train station, and that's no accident. Up until the 1960s, this was a train station, but over the decades, it's taken other forms. Since 2003, when John and Holly Cataldi bought this place, it's been the restaurant known as Solstice, serving up creative American cuisine. And if you're not familiar with that style, Executive Chef John Ricardo explains.
Cooking without borders, basically. We can do whatever we're interested in at the time. You know, some things that spark our interest as the seasons change. You know, we stick to a few things that we definitely know sell, that we know that we do well here, but it gives us the opportunity to always branch out and, you know, try new things and constantly making what we do better.
Here in the back of the house is where Ricardo and the crew put their skills on full display, creating some exquisite cuisine. There's plenty of activity at the front of the house as well, specifically the very inviting three-quarter wraparound bar. If you're a bartender, this is your time to shine. The early evening dinner crowd, every seat is filled and everyone is eating and having a beverage. But if you're looking for a little privacy, there's actually some outdoor seating right by the train tracks. A great way to end this busy day. Well, if that was the last train out of town, I just missed it. So I guess I'll just stay here, drink my wine, and enjoy myself tonight. Reporting for PCN Life, I'm Brian Sullivan.
We are so fortunate today to have two friends who are brought together by a very unique experience of organ donation. We have the donor, Scott Pachuki, and the recipient, Donald Sheehan. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Really important story, really good story. Obviously, if you donated to him and he's not your relative, he's your friend. So how did this friendship start?
Donald and I have been friends for about 15 or 16 years. He used to work for me at a little company on the South Shore called WearGuard.
And I worked there with you also in the 80s and 90s.
That's right.
Yeah.
He used to be my boss. Yeah, so Donald used to work for me in the call center. We very quickly realized that we were going to be friends.
Yep.
You know, he's just got that great personality, somebody that you want to know, somebody you want to be around.
Yep.
So we started hanging out outside of work and became good friends.
Okay.
And we've been friends for
Ever since. Okay. When did you first find out that you had a problem with your kidneys?
back in the summer of 1999.
A long time ago.
Long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I was actually away at a theater festival, and I woke up one morning and literally just my entire body was swollen.
Wow.
So I first went to a hospital up in North Adams, and they said, oh, it's probably from the heat, that type of thing, you're okay.
Yeah.
But things were actually getting a little bit worse. So
Okay.
they did some more blood work and said, we're going to send you home, and we're going to send you into a nephrologist in Boston because we feel it's probably something to do with your kidneys.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you then went to Boston.
Yep. I then went to Boston, and they biopsied it, and they indicated that it was a condition called glomerulonephritis.
Which means what?
It's a rare condition. Essentially what it means is that something, normally the kidney is supposed to absorb the protein in your system. Something got at the walls of my kidneys and caused holes so that the protein that was typically supposed to be absorbed was leaking out into my system, and that's what was causing the swelling.
Okay. So in order to remedy this, what do they do?
Well, they always tell me that a transplant might be a reality. Sometimes it reverses itself, but more often than not, it does not.
Okay.
So for about 16 years, I was good with medications. And basically the type of medication that they give you is what they give you when you have a transplant.
Okay.
They essentially try to treat it with anti-rejection immunosuppressant medications.
So this kept it in check for a while.
It did.
When did it get to the point where you realized this is not going to work anymore?
It was probably about a year and a half ago when my primary care physician indicated that my creatinine levels, which are your kidney function levels,
Right.
were continuing to rise and rise on a fairly consistent basis.
Okay.
So at that point, we didn't do much else then, but we continued to watch it.
Yep.
The creatinine levels became critical enough that ultimately in November of last year, I went on to dialysis.
Okay.
In June of last year, I had a consultation with the transplant clinic at Mass General,
Yep.
and at that point was put onto a donor list.
Okay. Which you can wait for years for a donor.
You can.
So you also did something on your own.
I did. So the transplant clinic that I met with recommended highly that I reach out via social media.
Okay.
So I went on to Facebook. I initially started out with a specific group of friends, people that were more close to me, because
Sure.
at that time I didn't feel quite comfortable sort of putting it
Yes.
en
out there.
masse, if
Yeah.
you will.
Yeah.
And there were some people that immediately donated, got tested rather,
Right.
but were not a
Yep.
good match for
Yep.
one reason or another. So then I put it out on a larger scale on Facebook, and I would say there were probably about 12 people
Okay.
that ended up being tested.
Okay. And dear Scott was one of them.
He
So you saw
was.
this on Facebook, and
I did see it on Facebook, but of course, being friends, we had been talking about it all along anyways, and I was determined I was going to get tested
you were going to
anyways.
get tested.
Yeah.
And you got tested.
I got
Tell
tested.
me about that process.
Testing process is quite extensive, actually.
It's not just drawing blood. Oh, you're a match.
That's
No.
what I thought.
Yeah.
But no, I met with the transplant team at Mass General on 3 separate occasions in January, March, and May of
Yeah.
this year. And through a series of EKGs and blood tests and MRIs, they determined that I was a good match for him.
Great. Which must have made you really happy.
Oh yeah,
It's a friend.
it was amazing
Yeah.
news.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
From heaven. So you ended up you were fine. You were going to be the one that was going to be able to give one of your kidneys to your dear friend Donald. And this happened eventually 6 weeks ago today.
6 weeks ago today, July 19th.
Amazing. And the surgery went as planned.
It did.
There were no complications.
No,
Yeah. And Mass General did the work.
they did.
Yeah?
And they did an amazing, the transplant unit there was really amazing. The
Yeah.
surgeons as well as the nurses and
Yeah.
the entire staff. They
Couldn't
were
say
really
enough
great.
good about them.
Yeah.
Okay. You'd mentioned to me earlier about this swap program. In case you weren't a good match for him, what does swap mean?
I'll do my best to explain it without confusing you.
Okay.
So Donald needs a kidney.
Yep.
I'm willing to donate.
Okay.
If I was not a match for him,
Yep.
then there might be somebody else out there who needs a kidney, and they have a friend
are.
who also doesn't match.
Okay.
But if their friend matched Donald and I matched their friend, then I would give them my kidney and they would give
So it's
Donald
almost an
theirs.
agreement, a four-way
Yeah.
swap
Yeah,
agreement.
exactly.
That's great. And that's out there for the whole world
Yep.
to use.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's terrific. Now, if people want to get more information about this before we go into what you're doing next with your life,
Sure.
They can go to 3 different websites that you've given us: www.kidney.org, organdonor.gov, and massgeneral.org/transplant. And those are 3 for information
Correct.
on this.
Absolutely, yeah.
You are, and we're going to be following you in the future, Donald, because tell me about what you're doing in Pembroke.
So I've had a theater company since '01 called True Rep Theater, and we've just decided to make our new home in Pembroke.
Which is great.
Yeah. Yep.
And you have an upcoming fundraiser on the 10th.
We do, yeah. We have a fundraiser at the Bethel Chapel over on Washington Street in Pembroke.
Yeah.
You know, there'll be raffling off, you know, different donations that we received. Probably meet some of our cast for our first show.
Great.
And also a great opportunity to learn more about the company.
Right. And you are now in great shape to be able to run this because of your dear friend Scott.
I am, absolutely.
And knowing you, I'm not surprised that you did this. And I wish there were more people in the world that would do things like this for each other, because it's a great story and we're so happy to have had you here. Thank you for sharing it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for having
And we'll
us.
follow you both.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Up next is our arts and entertainment segment, and we begin with a song from our local musician, Carlin Tripp. Take it away, Carlin.
On a winter night, the snow was falling as we slipped away outside from a winter sky. The stars were calling, and I saw the love light in your eyes, and I'm holding on to the good times. No, I'm never gonna let you go. And I tell the world I love you. Whoa, gonna tell the world I love my arrow rose. Whoa, yes, I love my arrow rose. Sweet like summer, warm as the rain, washing down that gravel road. Blue as the ocean, and we were swimming, and I found devotion in your soul, and I'm holding on to the good times. No, I'm never gonna let you go. And I tell the world I love you. Oh, gonna tell the world I love my arrow rose. Whoa, yes, I love my arrow rose. Oh, 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 yes, I love my arrow rose. And I'm
was awesome. That was awesome. It's no wonder that you won the open mic challenge a couple of years ago at the Spire in downtown Plymouth. And for those of you who don't know, there's this beautiful baby girl that's right here on our set, and I'm guessing that song was for her.
That song was for her, yes. I had to write a song for her.
All right, so after you win this thing, what goes on in a young musician's life here in Plymouth?
Oh, the Spire open mic, yeah, that was a big turning point. You know, it really it kind of got me into a bunch of new places. I ended up having some really cool opening gigs. You know, I played at the Narrows in Plymouth. I opened up for Rick Emmett there, who's, you know, like a guitar god from the band Triumph, and I've been busy, and I had a baby, and there she is, and that was a really interesting time period. It proved to be very fertile songwriting. Yes, hi, I know you're talking to me now. Yeah, and I wrote a song about her.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got this out of the way. You're playing gigs all over the place.
Yeah.
And you're recording.
And I'm recording.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I actually just had a production meeting yesterday, in fact, with a buddy of mine up in Boston, and he's going to be producing my album, and I think we're actually going to record some of it down here, which is going to be really cool. We're going to record some of it in Boston, and hopefully by next spring. That's my goal, you know.
You know, when I go to these shows and I see so many of you out there, you're really, you know, breathing new life into that whole singer, songwriter, acoustic guitar playing, you know, musician that I feel like we've strayed away from. Now all of a sudden this new younger generation is really bringing it back. What's going on? What's this all about?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. You know, I host a singer-songwriter series up in Dedham at the Dedham Square Coffee House, and I actually designed the series around acoustic guitar. You know, I call it 18 strings. It's basically 3 performers, you know, so 3 guitars, 6 strings, 18 strings, and it's such a pleasure to see these young songwriters come in and get on the stage, and they've all got original music, and it's, you know, totally new stuff. And I mean, I'm glad it's still happening, you know, because if you listen to the radio or you watch TV, it's like the same 5 songs over and over again.
It really is, but you know what's good about that? It encourages you to go out and,
it does.
You know,
Absolutely.
I've got to find new music, and when, it's
Yeah,
so true.
totally.
And when I see you guys playing, I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what, that, and not just inspires you to find new music, it might even encourage a lot of people to like start playing music themselves or even writing
I
music.
hope so.
You know, and I think that's what a lot of you guys are. I feel like that's what a lot of you guys are trying to do. And if
Yeah,
you don't, you're doing
absolutely.
it subliminally somehow. But I can't
Totally.
thank you enough for coming on this,
thank you for
this
having
evening.
me.
And
Right.
I want to thank everybody else for tuning in tonight. Replay times are listed at our website, PACTV.org, or you can find us on YouTube. Also, be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and we'll see you next time for more PCN Life. Carlin Tripp will play his second song as he plays.
Well, I could be the sun, you could be the moon, spin around in circles, wondering what to do. And I could fly by night, you could chase the day, wake up in the morning and I'll watch you run away. Cause life goes round in circles and keeps us on our toes. The stars will still be shining while you guard it grows. And hey, if you lose your way, I shine a light to guide you home. And I will be your lighthouse, baby, fire up above, the earth so far below.